Scribble notes when I wrote these quotes. If I offend.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jahmil. This episode is gonna be a little different. I'm here on my own for a change, which is definitely a switch up from what I normally do, interviewing guests. But I thought it was appropriate, especially this week with everything going on in the world. It's crazy how life has just given us so much tragedy. Like recently, just seeing all these acts of violence, these unlawful murders. It's just crazy to think that we live in a country where this is acceptable by people and where this is normalized. I was reflecting yesterday. I'm recording this on a Tuesday. I was reflecting about how it's just it's sickening how we have become a culture that really accepts violence and understands violence in such a way that we're numb. It's almost as if we flock to it. We know that it exists. We become so normalized to it that it almost doesn't seem real, but it seems like breathing at this point. You could turn on the news and see any story. You could turn on the news, see active violence, active hate, and it's never surprising. And as tragic as all this is, it just feels like sometimes it just never stops. So I'm just looking forward to a world where this does stop, where people are held accountable, where this isn't as easy as it seems to be, because right now it's hard to have hope in this society where we constantly see and constantly experience violence. It's not the America that I thought we grow up into. It's not the America that I envisioned when I was little. So that's just me. It's just me and how I feel about everything right now. It just makes going through life that much more difficult. It makes going through life that much more sorrowful, because you sit back every day and you think about how it really does impact people's lives, and how this isn't the world that we want for our kids, right? This isn't the world that we want for our children, but we continue to let this stuff permeate and continue to let this stuff exist. And other countries don't necessarily deal with the same problems we deal with, and it's just hard. But it made me think, because I've been reading this book, The Midnight Library. It was a recommendation from one of my supervisors at Quinnipiac, and it was an awesome book, man. And it definitely gave me a lot to think about. As all this is going on in life, I started thinking about The Midnight Library, and the basic premise of the story is this lady who is going through her own experience, her own life, and she starts to feel like she doesn't have anything to live for. And one night she swallows a bunch of pills, and she wakes up in this midnight library, and she basically gets to assume all of these different stories. She gets to try on all these different lives, the potential lives that she could have had she made different decisions. She gets to go back and change regrets, and see what life would have been like. And it was a powerful story, because it's like every time she took a new life on, every time she went down a new path, every time she experienced something different, she found some trouble in it, right? She found some trouble in this experience that she was having as she was launched into this new life. She found something negative, something disappointing about the decision she had made, or the alteration she had made. And it made me think about how in your own life there's so much opportunity for you to experience all of these wonderful things, but you can't do everything, right? There's always there's decisions that get made. There's choices that ultimately determine where you end up, and you have to be accepting of your own choices and your own journey. And like her in the story, as she's trying on these different lives, she becomes an Olympian. She becomes a rock star at one point. She becomes just a regular librarian. She becomes all of these different things and sees what life is like in all these different ways. The way it feels to be loved and be cared about, the way it feels to know that you are important to somebody, the way it feels to know that you're not important to anyone. Like, it was crazy to watch as she and read as she was going through this experience, because it makes you think about yourself, right? Like, what are you grateful for? Um, are you grateful for the things you've done and the people and lives you've impacted? The story touched on some really interesting concepts, right? Like if you changed one decision about your life, one minor decision about your life, it has this huge butterfly ripple effect, right, on everyone else that you've interacted with and everyone that you made a positive connection with going forward. And that some people's lives fall out of place, and that some people's lives fall into place, and some things are better without you than you thought. And the regret that you hold and the regret that you have about things you didn't do, sometimes those things were never meant to be for you. And it was such an interesting story, because as you're sitting here and as you're reading and seeing how she's experiencing and interpreting the life she's going through, you realize that as humans, we often yearn for, we want what's next. We want to think about what we could have been. We regret and hold ourselves accountable for things and decisions that we didn't make. And in reality, it's not about the things you don't do, right? You can think about, oh, I could have been this. Like I could have been an athlete. I could have been a rock star. I could have been a musician. But that doesn't serve you anyway, right? Like it doesn't serve you to sit back and be upset about the things you didn't do, about the words you didn't say. It doesn't serve you to hold on and linger on all of the things that weren't supposed to be or weren't meant to be, no matter what situation you ended up in, right? No matter what situation you're in right now, to look at your past and say, oh, if I just had done this, everything would be better. It's not true. And the story does a really good job at kind of showing you why that's not true. Because even when she became like a rock star, right? She always had regretted. This is like a little bit of a spoiler, but she always had regretted how her and her brother uh did this music together, and she had quit the band or whatever, and they were going to get signed and something crazy like that. And in the life where she did become a rock star, she like wandered around. She was on stage performing songs, like rocking the crowd, the whole nine. And she was like looking for her brother, and she had took over that life from the place where from the age where she was, right? She took over that life from the age where she currently was, and she was like 34. And she's a rock star performing, looking for her brother, and he's not there, only to find out that he died. And he died because of the lifestyle of being a rock star, because he didn't get any of the help that he really needed to change his life, because he was addicted to all of these things and he had never really gotten help. And she realized after that life, that idea of being this world-known pop star, right, this whole rock star, everyone's seeing you, everyone wants your autograph, that future that she could have had, that had she made a different choice she would have meant that he would have died, and that he wasn't going to be long for that life. And as great as it sounded, it was like, yo, you don't get all of it. You never get it all. And it's coming to that acceptance and that realization that you don't get it all, but that doesn't mean you have nothing, right? Like you don't have to reach a place where you have nothing but resources and you have nothing but positives. Life isn't full of all positives. Even the most glorious, the most spectacular, the most happy life will still have pieces that you're going to feel are not completely perfect. And that's okay, because life isn't meant to be perfect. And sometimes the experience you're going through is great as it is. As much as we might regret and hate the things that we're dealing with, or the circumstances we're going to be dealing with, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean it's terrible. It just means it's part of life. And then once you get to a place where you can finally accept yourself and accept that, it's a little bit easier to move and navigate. I think about that, right? Like, okay, I became a father, and becoming a father was a huge deal, a huge life-changing moment. Something that I think about sometimes, like, wow, I remember when I wasn't a father. What would my life be like then? And it's crazy, because what would my life be like? How would the last 2 years have been had I not been becoming a dad and then being one? And it's insane to think that that choice, that decision is such a long-term effect, but my life needed that, right? Like at the time, my life needed it, and my life needed to become. I needed to become a father. I was ready to become one. No matter what the other branches of reality kind of would have been, this multiverse that we live in, right? Like there's a reality where I'm not a father. There's a reality where I don't work where I work, where I'm not happy. There's a reality where I'm a musician going around making music. There's a reality where I write books full time and I've been doing it for years. There's a reality where all of this exists, and it's crazy because as much as you might think and look at those realities like, wow, I wish I was the author. I wish all I did was write. And then I see if I ever got a chance to experience that reality, what would be the things that I sacrificed for it? What would be the things about my current life that wouldn't exist anymore? And would that make me happy? And as I was like listening to that book and in reading that book, I was going through this experience of like, wow, you don't need to create these alternatives for yourself. You don't need to have these regrets of what you didn't do. You don't need to have these thoughts of life would be better if I changed or if something changed, because at the end of the day, you still have potential, right? You still have the potential to do something different. You still have the potential to move forward. You still have potential to become somebody else. You have potential to change your life at any day, any moment. So it's just realizing and recognizing firmly that you can change tomorrow if you decided to. You can go out and make a brand new life for yourself. You can take on a new hobby. You can do the thing that you've been waiting for tomorrow. You can do it today. You can sit here and say like, hey, I don't have all the skills, but you can start to learn. And there's nothing stopping you but you. There's nothing stopping you but the realization that your age and your situation doesn't stop you or prevent you from becoming something more, right? It doesn't stop you from being able to explore and enjoy. And I remember getting to the end of the book and she's just living this life where she's realizing her potential to continue to be happy, to accept her current situation, the current hand she's dealt, and then move through that world. It was just amazing because that's something that I've had to learn to deal with as I'm thinking about my own life and thinking about my own decisions and reflecting on my experience as a human out here. It's like there are so many things I could have done, but there's so many things that I'm doing now. And some of those things don't align, but some of those things never needed to. And I'm happy in this place I am now, and I can continue to be even happier. I can continue to create more and do more, and there's lives where I'm extremely successful. And I bet those same lives are lives where I'm extremely sad. And as I'm going through my life now, I have to create and have a greater appreciation for the day to day, for my own experience, because this isn't guaranteed. And as it's not guaranteed, I'm learning that you have to be more and more engaged in your own happiness. Like it's up to you. And at the end of the day, if you decide that you're not going to take advantage of it, if you decide that it's not going to be something important to you, then it just won't happen. You won't be happy. But that's just how it goes. It's like we have this opportunity in front of us every single day to write our future story. And it's the people who take advantage of that opportunity, people who seize that pen and start to write their future, that really have happiness, the people that really get to experience the life they want to live. If you want to travel, go travel. Don't talk about it, just do it. Experience the things you want to experience. Go through the life you want to go through, because at the end of the day, those are the things that are important to you, and you still have the opportunity, right? Like I decided to get my passport. I was like, I'm 28, like I can get a passport. It's not like I had to do it when I was 21 or had to do it when I was 18. It's like you can get a passport right now and then start to travel internationally. You can go to Rome and see what it's like. It's never too late to change your own life. Like you don't have to wait and say, I have to wait. It only can happen this time, or I'm too busy now. It's like, no, make the time and go live the life you want to live. Go do the things you want to do. And don't sit back and regret when you didn't, and regret all the times that you could have, but chose something else, because those same times put you where you are now. And if you don't like where you are now, know that you have the potential to go forward and change that too. That all of that happened for a reason, and that all of it was important. Because the idea that we would be better off with different decisions is a fallacy. It's us creating this mindset that all of our decisions in the past, had we changed them, had our regrets been different, we would be better off. And there's not many scenarios where you're 100% better off. You're living a perfect life, because you're always going to feel almost as though that you don't belong in that perfect life. If you don't have that experience, if you don't know what it was like, if you don't actually go through the journey that gets you there, it's like, why would you want to be there? Why would you want to accept all of the things that came with that? All of these smaller changes that come with one decision changing. I could have decided to stay at Becker College and play football, and I would have never met my wife or my best man, or probably go into higher education. I would have a whole different career path. And I don't know where that would lead. Would it be better? Would it be worse? I don't know. And I don't need to know. And I don't need to harp on the idea that I could have had a different life had I made a different choice. But I do know that going forward, I have the opportunity to make other choices, to live, to be alive, and to experience the things that I want to experience, because I'm going through life now, because I still have agency. And you all still have agency in your own lives. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Take advantage of the life you have, take advantage of the situation you have, and explore, be happy, find some sort of gratitude in the life that you're living, because at the end of the day, this is the life that you have.
Scribble notes when I wrote these quotes. If I offend, pardon me, there's more of me to grow. Creative in my process, enjoy the show. The will is different when you recognize the different strokes. Different folks, same goals, we all want the most. So when we reach the top, we can enjoy the toast. The type of bread we get is fresh about the bakery. Told them don't play with me, with or without a degree. Don't question my intensity, bravery. Similar to agencies that want to see you fold. So just pray for me. Einstein with my